Welcome back to Top Movie Recaps. Today I will show you an action-adventure film from 2017, titled Furious. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. In 1223, shortly after the Battle of the Kalkashu River between the Mongols and various Rus principalities, a group of Russian men are traveling through the forest to hunt. Two of them have brought their children. Nastia, a girl that likes to play the flute, and Kalavrat, a boy that dreams of becoming a warrior in the prince's guard. Unfortunately, they're suddenly ambushed by a group of Mongolian soldiers led by Commander Kostavril. After losing her flute, Nastia takes a horse to town to ask for help while Kularan space back, trying to fight as well. All the Russian men are killed and Cold Rock grabs two swords to defend himself, but before he can do anything, Kostavril throws balls in his neck and knocks him out. 14 years later, an adult Kalavrat wakes up tied to a bed with no memories and freaks out. Holder Nastia is used to this reaction and rushes to his side to explain everything. The Mongols had left him for dead, so cold. Got to survive. Now he's a foreman of the prince's guard. He's married to Nastia and it had two children together. Hearing these words and walking around the house helps Kalavrat remember, but he doesn't even get to a breakfast before one of the soldiers, Karkin, comes to pick him up to go to the city walls. When they arrive, Prince Yuri of Ryazan asks Kalavrat for his advice on what to do about the men on horses that are approaching the city. Because they can't see their flags yet, Kalavrat tells them to wait before attacking, and it turns out to be the smart thing to do. It's not the Mongols, it's another prince and his men that have come for the christening of Yuri's grandson. After work, Kalavrat takes over the training of the soldiers. Yuri's son Fadar arrived late because he was busy with the preparations for the christening of his son, of whom Kalavrat will be the godfather. Kalavrat asked him to show his skills and Fadar gladly take the challenge, but he only ends up embarrassing himself and leaving. Once training is over, Kalavrat returns home with gifts for his family. A little hedgehog for his kids, and a new flute for his wife that is carved himself. Naja loves it and puts it in a box to keep it safe, but inside the box, Kalavrat finds dozens of fluids because he's carved one for her every day and keeps forgetting about it. Later, the christening ceremony is interrupted by a citizen announcing that the Mongols are coming. Everyone runs to hide, but Kalavrat stays with a baby until the priest is done with his blessing. After Yuri and his men noticed a huge amount of soldiers the Mongols are bringing, they give orders to close the gates and not let anyone leave until they decide what to do. The prince holds a meeting to discuss the problem. Fedor thinks that the Russian warriors are better so they could defeat the Mongols even while outnumbered. All other advisors think they should pay tribute. This would leave the city but at least they would survive. Yuri decides to buy time to see if they can ask neighboring cities for help, so he wants Fedor to take the best guards and don't negotiate with the Mongols. Meanwhile, Kalavrat leaves the meeting in the middle of it to check the state of the city, where everyone is panicking and running to find shelter. He bumps into a medicine man, calls a car that begs Polaroid to allow him to go out in exchange for potions, but Kalavrat reminds him that the city is surrounded and there's no escape. Afterward, he returns home only to find Uri there with an order. Cold Front must gather his men and go with Fedor to see the Mongols. Kalavrat doesn't think it's a good idea because of his memory issues, and Naja agrees with him, breaking down into tears and begging the prince to reconsider. However, Kalavrat is the man Yuri trusts the most, so he doesn't change his mind. The soldiers gather near the gates to get going. Kalavrat is going as well, and since they'll need a translator, Kalavrat chooses Zakar to come to because he understands the Mongols' language. Still worried about her husband, Naja brings over their maid Lada, who just learned how to help Kalavrat in the morning so she can go with him while Natbia stays home with the kids once their wagon is loaded with riches. The group takes off and travels to the Mongolian camp, where they are directed to the tent leader Batu Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan. Their offerings are well received, so they're invited to sit and share some drinks, and they take the chance to ask the Mongols what they want. Batu Khan says he wants nothing and the Russians came uninvited, but he's curious about their people, so he'll have Ryazan as his first Russian city. Every man that kneels to Batu Khan will be well fed, but Fatal replied by saying he wants to see Batu Khan instead. This is taken as an insult, so full of Rai, who has been staring at Body's big map, stands up and comes in Fedor defense, announcing their city will only be taking over their dead bodies. Batu Khan claims he'll never kneel for anyone, but he respects Koldrop's guts, so he gifts him a talisman with a letter of transit. This letter allows a person to walk through enemy territory without being attacked or harassed. Then Batakan invites them to watch a little show while they enjoy their drinks. This is a trick to distract the Russians so the Mongols can ambush them, but the plan doesn't work. The table is being held by Russian slaves and they see the Mongols approach, so they won their countrymen just in time. A fight ensues and Kalavrat takes everyone out of the tent including the slaves, and they slash their way through a bunch of soldiers in order to steal some horses and run to the forest. Sadly, Fader is hit by an arrow, so he decides to stay behind to buy his friend some time and is killed by Kohostavril. Batu Khan doesn't think they're worth pursuing and orders the horde to get ready for an attack instead. A few hours later, Kalavrat group is having trouble crossing the forest because of an extreme snowstorm. Suddenly, they were approached by a giant bear, but the animal doesn't attack because it's under the control of fellow Russian Nastor. This man takes them to a huge case so they can rest until the storm is over, but Kalavrat refuses to sleep and asks Nestor for a potion that can keep him awake for the sake of his memories. However, Nestor refuses to prepare such a thing because he thinks waking up every morning with no memories is a blessing that lets you start your life anew. Kalavrat tried his best to stay awake in front of the fire and realizes he still remembers the map he saw back in the tent, so he writes down before he forgets. Once the weather calms down, the group leaves, leaving Nestor behind in his cave. However, by the time they return to Ryazan, it's too late. The Mongols have already destroyed the city. Most of the buildings have been hit by catapults. The main bell has fallen from its rope. Yuri was killed by archers. Baydor's wife decided to jump with a baby before getting caught, and Nausea with the kids stayed in the house until I collapsed from a fire. After finding the flute carved among the ruins of his home, Kalavrat gathers his man and together they raise the bell again to make it ring so any survivors will come out from their hideouts. There are many people left, and various of these survivors are children. Suddenly, someone announces that the Mongols are coming to finish them off, so Color Run quickly makes a plan. While everyone hides, he stays under the bell and pretends to let the Mongols capture it, but as soon as they come closer, Kalavrat attacks. His dual wielding of two swords in a circular motion is extremely effective and killed many enemies in seconds, and once Kalavrat has lowered their numbers, his men come out and help him finish them off. Now that the fight is over, Kalavrat comes up with a plan. He sent messengers to warn the neighboring cities and ask for their help, and their children will be sent to hide in Nestor's cave. Kalavrat and the soldiers will try to make the ford turn around and keep them distracted. They only need to figure a way to do that. Thankfully, Zakar has an idea. He prepares a special potion that they pour into the water the Mongols are drinking from, making them all sick. To make sure they get the message, Kalavrat tears off part of the letter of transit and ties it to an arrow that he shoots at the camper coaster world to find. The commander sent some soldiers after Kalavrat group to get revenge for the water, but it's all a trap. The Russian soldiers are expecting them easily kill them with our arrows. Once they're safe, Kalavrat passes out, not being able to stay awake any longer after 3 days of not sleeping. While the group sets up camp, lot of times Color onto a tree and watches over him while praying to the gods that he falls for her. When night falls, Lada wakes Kalavrat up so he can eat something. However, she unties him before she's done reciting all the important facts for him to remember, so Kalavrat escapes and attacks his friends. It takes quite a number of men to hold him down, and it's thanks to Karkin's words that Kalavrat comes to his senses. Then, Kalavrat apologizes to his brothers in arms and comfort a crying Lada. Meanwhile, two messengers safely leave the area and reach the neighboring cities, but when they talk to the princess, they refuse to help, preferring to stay behind and protect their homes. The third messenger is hurt and passes out on top of the horse, so the animal gets lost and takes the wrong road. The following night, and his men sneak inside the Mongolian camp wearing costumes and face paint to make them think they're spirits. Some soldiers run away and the Russians kill the ones that don't, to then use the catapults to attack the Mongols with their own weapons. Before leaving, Kalavrat uses another arrow with a piece of litter so Kosta will knows who did this. As revenge, the Mongols capture the lost messenger to torture him. Kalavrat and his men hide in the forest and go to sleep early, confident they'll get help in the morning. Lot of trying to lay down next to Kalavrat, unaware he's awake, so when he turns to look at her, she thinks he's waking up and begins reciting the memories. This includes pretending to be Nastia, but I called out early before hugging her and reminding her she's all he's got left from home when morning comes. Kalavrat goes deeper into the forest to check some weird noises, unaware that Lot is following him. That's how he finds the third messenger's dead body, which was left there as a trap. Now Kalavrat finds himself surrounded by Mongols. What Lada runs back to camp to ask for help. Kost overwatches with all how Kalavrat fights all the soldiers on his own as a snowstorm begin flowing around him. The commander tries to stop him with his bowl as like he did years ago, but this time it stops them with a sword. As the storm gets worse, Nestor and the bear arrive, killing a bunch of models and scaring the survivors away. When the soldiers return to their camp, they tell terrifying stories of what they saw. Ghosts overall hadn't believed the trick of the spirits, but now he seen Kalavrat command a storm and bear. He is starting to believe as well. Batakan is disappointed by his men for believing such things and order his army to turn around, determined to find a way to prove there's nothing magical about this war. Back to the Russians, Nestor frees the bears and joins Kalavrat army. He's also brought a few men with him from nearby villages. The group celebrates when Parkon returns with some good news. Just like they planned, the Mongols are turning around and following them instead of going after the other cities. There's only one problem left. The slave full of children Nestor have been taken care of, and following Zakar's idea, that the group will stay behind and hold the line while Karkin takes Alata and their children to the river. There they can host the sail on the sleigh and travel faster than any horse. This way, the survivors can rebuild a new Riaz on the future. After this lady leaves, the men begin working on various traps and wait at the top of the hill for the Mongols to arrive. When Batakan finally gets there, he brings an immense army with him and wastes no time in finding some men after the Russians. This first attack fails because the soldiers fall for the traps in the archers, which make it difficult for the Mongols to climb up the hill. Meanwhile, the Battle of the Hill continues. The Mongols shoot their arrows too, and after taking down a few Russians, they finally climb up and begin fighting full of Rossman hand to hand. Nestor and Zakar die while Kostavril comes for their leader, but Kalavrat easily defeats him with a clean cut of his two swords. The Mongols still outnumber them though, so the Russian soldiers slowly fall one by one, but at least they protect the hilltop long enough for Kar to reach the river. However, he finds a little problem. The night around the sail is frozen and they don't have any fire. Lada makes the kids breathe over the frost, which freezer open allows them to release the sail, so now they can escape safely. With only a few men left, Kalavrat defeats the remaining Mongols at the top of the hill and puts up his flag. Batu Khan feels like they're being ridiculed and sent a messenger to find out what the Russians want. The Kalavrat give him back the same words they received a few days ago. They want nothing, and the Mongols came here uninvited. As a furious Batu Khan orders his men to fire the catapults, Kalavrat notices the sleigh sail at the river, celebrating the survivors have managed to escape right before he's knocked out by a rock. When he wakes up seconds later, Kalavrat has all his memories, but find all these men dead. At the last honorable move, he goes down the hill, protecting himself from any attack by showing the talisman. Kalavrat falls to the ground and tells Batu Khan one day his people will have their revenge, then drops the talisman on the snow, asking the Mongolian leader to take it back. Batu Khan does as asked and Kalavrat smirks, pointing out he did make Batu Khan kneel for him after all before dying. Batu Khan is impressed by Kalavrat heroics, saying this would be the warrior he trusted the most if you were one of his, then asked his men to give him a hero's burial. 5 years later, Karkin is the leader of Novgorod Vladimir army. He inspired his man by remembering them of Kalavrat's sacrifice and noble fight before guiding them into what would become known as the Battle on the Ice. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.